What is up, FPG fam? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Wuthering Waves video where we actually have a very exciting video today. I have two fantastic content creators to join me in today's video where we're going to discuss Wuthering Waves as the technical test just ended not too long ago. So we're going to talk about the technical test, our thoughts about it, and opinions. And let me go ahead and introduce them at this time. So Vulcan, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself really quickly.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, dude. This was actually the first time we met through Chaotic. We had a good chat beforehand, so glad to be on and have a chat about it.
It's an honor to have you on. And yeah, this is the first time meeting, so I appreciate you being here. And I'm sure if people are subbed to me, they're subbed to both you and Chaotic. So thank you for being here. And make sure if you're not, I'll leave Vulcan's channel in the description down below. Go over there, show some support, sub to the man. And then we have Chaotic. You want to introduce yourself, Chaotic?
Yeah, no, just some weird gacha content creator that likes trolling people about all the games that are coming from China, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much sums it up.
Very nice. Yeah, that does sum it up. So once again, I'm sure you guys know Chaotic, but if you're not subbed, description down below, go over there, show some support, sub to the man.
I hate introducing myself. Shit.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead and like I mentioned, we're gonna talk about the technical test, what we've seen from it. I have some questions here for you. So I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Chaotic, because you're the one that has been hyping this up. You're the one that essentially pretty much introduced us all to this game from the jump. So from when you saw the gameplay trailer to actually seeing the technical test, were your expectations met, or were they a little let down, or did they exceed your expectations?
Exceeded. Exceeded, bro. Okay, so watching the trailer, you don't actually get a sense of how detailed some of this combat is. Like there's just keep in mind it's a technical test, so I'm pretty sure a lot of stuff is going to change before we get a solid look on it. They kind of cut us out on the global side. So yeah, the game was, for a technical test, very smooth. I was not expecting to be able to get more than 30 frames per second, to be honest. The world, while it felt like the entire world was kind of placeholder, just threw it in there just for the sake of, hey, here's something to do. I think this was a combat test. I don't really think they were trying to test elements of the world too much, or how various systems work. I think they just really wanted people to test the combat and the systems associated with the combat. But bro, it exceeded my expectations. I kind of really felt like I was playing an open world PGR.
Right. Yeah, no, I have to agree with you on that one. But Vulcan, what do you think?
So for me, because like you, Chaotic hyped this up massive. He was like, early days, he's like, listen, Kuro has something coming. It's going to be amazing and all that. So I was like, sick, dude. I'll just wait and see. But yeah, obviously the open world and stuff, it does feel like really empty. I feel like a lot of the open world games that come out feel empty, but obviously, like Chaotic said, it was more about the combat. Like they've got lots of time to develop the rest of that stuff. But the combat, I was really hoping for PGR-esque combat. I didn't think the orbs would get taken through from PGR, because even though that's really cool on mobile, it really doesn't. I know the PGR is making a PC client, but I feel like it's a really hard thing to keybind. So I'm glad they narrowed it down in abilities and stuff like that. But they kept the true essence of, the dodging. And when you're watching the battles, it really looks like watching some of the PGR battles. I think one of the problems is in like the trailer where they showed it, the dude was really good playing it, at least the one I watched. And like it made it look easy. But when you play PGR versus when you watch good players play PGR, like there is a massive difference in dodge timing and all that sort of stuff. So I just think the combat looks sick. I'm just hoping that they really give meaning to the open world, so it doesn't become like the open world is just like in your way to get to the next fight, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. We'll get into the open world and more about that here in just a second. But I totally agree with you. And that reminded me, massive shout out to Steparu for the gameplay that you're seeing right now, because that is a player, and we've seen others that make the game look extremely easy, as if they mastered Wuthering Waves already, and that may be something that carries over from Punishing Gray Raven in terms of timing, parries, dodges, things of
So
that
you
nature.
have
But
no idea.
what was that?
You have no idea. I hopped in thinking like, okay, I play PGR, I'm gonna be fine. No, you have no idea.
Okay, so it's completely different then.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It is a skill issue thing. You are gonna be sitting there practicing your moves
Now,
a lot.
do you think that somebody that is good in PGR that somewhat translate over?
Dodging, maybe reaction time, maybe.
Okay.
That's it. Like it's. Uh, uh, I saw some content creators like commenting on the combat, and I think I was doing it too before I actually got my hands on an account,
Mm-hmm.
and it just looks easy. It just looks easy, but it's not. It is not. I dodging, your timing on dodging, your timing on parrying is very, very to the letter.
Right.
It's just it's great though. It's not a bad thing. It's great.
No.
What about the trash mobs? Like the trash mob, like the boss fights. Obviously, are did the just trash mobs around the world feel like decent fights, or was it just like guaranteed wins where you just go in and face roll?
It's a yes and no kind of thing because when you first start the game, um, okay, this is what I meant by the world is kind of not fleshed out. And anyone watching this video, I apologize. I have to use this as an example. There's no way to avoid this. I
Don't
think
do
what
it.
the
He's going there. He's going there.
I have
He's going
to.
there.
I
He's
have
going
to. So the world kind of felt like they just copied and pasted another game and said, we're going to do this only so that we can test the combat. I do think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to be anything similar to any other game that's on the market. But I'm pretty sure everyone knows what game I'm talking about. The thing is, the mobs were
Pokemon
kind
Legends Arceus, yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's what I was
right
going
on the,
for.
yeah.
right on the damn, got me. The mobs in the world start off very freaking I'm not going to attack you. Very, very boring, I guess is the word. As you level up your account, and I don't know if it was like a world level thing or something, but once you get to like a certain like world level, I assume that's what it was. The enemies start actually attacking you back, and they actually get like difficult. The ones in the world were kind of like, of course, a little easier to take out. But when you start taking out those mobs that are like in like the special sections where it closes off the rest of the area, bro, it, those things attack you, and they do damage. You will be dodging, you will be parrying, you will be switching characters. Like it.
So
To answer
it's
your-
one of it's one of those
to
things
answer-
where you have to be careful how many mobs you aggro, because then you can't actually just nuke the whole bunch.
That's it. It's not even that, because you don't aggro enemies. They spawn all together. So yeah, so you don't walk around and then attract one enemy and you're still running away from that one until you attract 3 or 4 more. You spawn in or load into an area, you just go walking around that area and you'll see them literally spawn in a specific space. And I think I've had one situation where 2 groups kind of work together on me. But that was just in between 2 spawning locations. There was no aggroing a bunch of enemies into one spot, at least not from what I was experiencing.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, and it did, now that you mention it, I have seen clips where you can literally walk up to enemies and they're not doing anything. They look like they're trying to be more reactive than proactive. And then I've seen other clips where they are absolutely trying to jump you and really take you out. Like they're extremely aggressive. So that could be a world leveling thing. And another just quick disclaimer, and I'm sure we're all aware, this is still just a technical test. So this is all subject to change on, official release, even in closed beta. But from what we can see so far, that does appear to be the case. So that might be something that they're going for, but we'll just have to wait and see for that. But yeah, so moving on from there. So Vulcan, after seeing the technical test and as we move on to a closed beta and then of course the official release, what type of changes or improvements are you expecting or wanting the most when the game officially releases?
Yeah, for that, it's definitely just to make the open world feel like it's meaningful. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like, because we're getting like a ton of open world games, they all feel just empty in the open world to some extent. Like, maybe it's enjoyable the first time running through, but then it just becomes like there's nothing. Like, I don't know whether like spawning world bosses randomly, or I don't know how. Like, I don't actually. And if you guys have an answer for this, I'd love to hear it. But I don't have a solution for that, especially on single player games where it's not an MMO. Like, how you try and make that open world feel more impactful and meaningful to the gameplay. That's the
Like
one
you
thing
just
I
need
would love to see.
like you just add more things to do instead of adding so many gaps of just walking around. Like
Yeah.
I get farming is an essential part of an open world game and an RPG in general, but I think what's missing from every single one of these open world games is a sense of uniqueness in the gameplay structure. So if you could have a fun, not so grindy event that, I don't know, you get on a surfboard and just kind of challenge other players or something, or if you had
Yeah.
like a bike or a jetpack or something where you can fly around the world, or you had like you just various different gameplay elements that kind
That
of
it'd
give you a
be
sense of discovery and fun while you're traversing the world. That would make it feel fresh. Of course, you're gonna have to always come up with something new, which I think is the trouble with making an open world game, because things get boring, and especially with how much we as content creators play these games. Um, with how much we play these games, there's always going to be that, okay, this is now getting boring. Are they going to introduce anything else? Are they going to add that new bike with the jets on it or something? Or are we going to get like jetpack surfboards now? Or I don't know. It's a really hard thing to do because you always have to come up with something innovative. But I do feel like there's a way to do it, and it's just going to take a team that's willing to dump the money into the game and pretty much risk if it was worth adding these elements to the game.
yeah. Yeah, 100%. And I don't know about you guys. The other main thing that I really want to see, because obviously we were looking more at combat, would be multiplayer combat, co-op combat. Like, I really think
Definitely.
that meaningful combat in that sense. And the way I look at it is like, developing like multiplayer dungeons where you actually have similar to like World of Warcraft type thing, where you get into a dungeon there and you have, 4 or 5 bosses that you got to clear trash, maybe do some, in between stuff to open doors, whatever. But then you've got like meaningful bosses along the way where it's like, the first one's not too difficult, but you defeat it, you got to get some loot drops and stuff like that. And then, like the end boss is the one that's really hard, takes skill, takes cooperation. And then, that's where the good loot comes from. I really like that. And if they do meaningful co-op, I really think that you have to have a matchmaking system for people who aren't in pre-made groups as well. Because if it's something that, is almost incentivized that you must do, then you've got to have a way for everyone to get into that.
I would like to see them do like a dungeon structure where
I would
you
too.
literally, yeah, like you spawn into a dungeon, a bunch of enemies are spawned in there, and you have to explore looking for chests and stuff. A Diablo structure, like an old school Diablo type game, right? But with fast paced combat and enough room to uh, uh, do these crazy combos with your friends. I want to see a boss that's big enough to where he's literally looking at one of us, but takes one swipe and probably can hit all three of us, and we just have to dodge and parry, and all of our attacks matter. Like I just want that kind of content in a game, and I feel like if they do something like that here, I have a masterpiece here, bro.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's without a shadow of a doubt that would separate it head and shoulders above the rest. But and I think I talk to you about this, Chaotic, about Anthem. Did we talk about that together?
No, we did. I think we talked about Anthem, but I don't think in the context you're about to bring up.
Yeah, so some of the best times that I had playing multiplayer or like a raid-esque type of environment was
Never
in
mind, we did
Anthem.
talk about this.
Yeah, and in Anthem, and I don't know, Vulcan, if you played Anthem when it was around. Um,
Only a little bit. Only a little bit. Not. I didn't go deep.
so you know the very first, and I'm not sure if you guys remember, but the very first raid-esque type of content that we got, you would drop in and it would be like sections, and those sections would be extremely difficult, but they would be mixtures of like little enemies and like larger enemies, and you would have to go through them, and you would have to clear that area to move to the next one, or you can just kind of skip it all and go all the way through if you can make it through alive, and then you would
Or there was
eventually,
a task, or there was a
or
task that you had to do.
exactly, or there was a task, something you had to solve while fighting those enemies and flying around and stuff. And then you eventually got to the end boss of that raid. And the very first one, I remember it like it was yesterday. It came from like the ceiling and it came down and like dropped in. If they
Oh,
had
the spider.
the spider, yeah. If they had, and I remember the first time doing that fight, I had the greatest time doing it, and it was so difficult and challenging, but rewarding at the same time. And if I think they can implement something similar, it doesn't have to be obviously a one-to-one, but if it's something similar to that, I mean, I think that would, I would love that. I think that would be amazing with the type
Bro,
of combat.
Anthem's dead. Steal it from them. Like, I don't
Exactly.
care.
You just rip it
Anthem's
straight.
dead. They're not doing anything with their IP. Literally take the elements of what made that fight so fun and put it in your game. No one can be mad at you for it. They're not doing anything with it. Like, no one's gonna be mad at you.
It was such a and it was a fight that I did not mind doing over and over again to try and
Facts.
grind something out because it was so fun and because it was so difficult. And you had a group, you would go in with a group, so you would have to make sure that somebody had a certain class to make sure that we can clear this part, because this part you need somebody tanky or you need a DPS to mow these guys down. It was structured that way to where you had to cooperate, especially if there was like some type of puzzle to solve, and then you get to the end, you finish it, and then you get something rare from it. It's just having that, I feel like that's missing in a lot of games, to where you complete these hard contents and you don't mind doing it over again.
You just literally brought back how angry I am about Anthem.
Oh man, Anthem was so much fun. It was
Like,
so much fun.
it was such a good game. It just needed them to listen to the player feedback. And I think you just hit the nail on the head. Actually,
I'm telling you.
I think I'm searching for the thrill that I had when playing Anthem.
I know.
You guys talking about anthems like me with like when I started playing WoW and stuff like that. Because what I'm thinking, like you guys are talking about all this stuff, I'm thinking back to like some like boss fights like similar to WoW, where it's like, you know, there was one where, you know, it's a massive dude walking around with his two like hellhounds,
Right?
and you get into the combat, and you know you got to have like a main tank and healer on the dude himself tanking him, but then the hellhounds go and attack others. So like, you could have mechanics like that where then, you know, and in this one you had to bring their health down at an even rate, because if one of the dogs died, he got a massive buff. So it's like, you know what I mean? So like, you had to bring all their health down similarly, and then nuke one dog, nuke the other dog, nuke the boss. So it's like, and then there was like another one where it was like, you talking about the spider got me thinking about it. You got this big mother spider.
Mm-hmm.
And then like during the main phase, you're trying to DPS the big spider, and then other spiders would dangle down from the ceiling, and then you'd have to like kill them quickly, and then there'd be a phase where a bunch of eggs would pop up, and you had to like AoE clap all the eggs, or they'd hatch and other spiders would come out. And then there's like another phase of the battle where you'd actually have to go up onto like some of the players would go up onto a spider web and then have to attack the spider from up top. So it's like all like, I feel like I want to see those types of mechanics where it's like actual planning goes into it. It's not just AoE DPS, chain the same skills over and over and kill stuff.
Well, I also want to say that we have to keep in mind this is not an MMO, but at the same time, there's nothing wrong with a game being like super single player and then having these multiplayer MMO-esque elements.
Exactly.
Yeah,
would
that's what I'm leaning into. It's like do it in dungeons and leave the rest single player. I'm not stressed about that.
yeah,
Exactly.
the world can be a single player experience
Hmm.
that we have to experience on, just go through the story on our own. I'm fine with that.
Right.
But I want something that will keep me coming back, or else I'm just gonna get bored eventually. And this could with any game. It doesn't matter how good the game is. Doing something as much as we do it is eventually gonna get boring.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And
and to people listening, we're just dreaming, remembering the things we've enjoyed most in games, and hoping we get something close to that. Is what's happening
Yeah,
here.
and that's why
this is a copium
it
podcast,
is.
pretty much.
It really is, and but that's why I brought up it doesn't have to be a one-to-one comparison. And I'm sorry that I keep referencing Anthem, but like in Anthem, they had that open world environment that you can do whatever you want to do and farm whatever you want to farm. But if you wanted to do that raid like content, you would go to your map, you would go to where those raid bosses are, and you would queue in, or you would queue in with your friends, and
Bro,
it
you
would
just
be
reminded me
totally
though.
separate.
Anthem wasn't an MMO either.
No, it was
It
not.
it was literally just a single player game
It
with
was.
three other people that would be in your world.
Exactly. So you would
Oh,
go out into your own world, but there would be other players in that world randomly.
only three other players.
Only
Only
three
three
other
though.
players. Yeah, it wasn't like a massive MMO. It was three other players would randomly be out there, and you would encounter them from time to time when you were flying around and stuff. But if you wanted to queue up and do one of those raid bosses, because there was at the time I was playing, there was three, and they each had their specific drops and gear and stuff. And so you would load into the one that you wanted to do, and you would queue into that, and it was completely separate. And that's what
You're
they can
literally
do
gonna
with
make me
Wuthering
download this game.
Waves. I know. And this is what you can do with Wuthering Waves. Have your single player experience. I want that too. I don't want to take that away from anybody. And if you want to casually go throughout the world, fantastic. But also have that content for people that want to do stuff like that, because now you're able to cater to everybody and everybody's happy. So I did want to actually ask you first, Chaotic. Now, we all know this game will most certainly have some form of gacha, with the game having both characters and weapons. Now, how would you like to see the gacha implemented for this game in particular?
This is a hard one though. I mentioned this in a post that I put on Reddit. It was received pretty well, but people are very accustomed to the way things are being done currently. That they don't believe that it's possible to do it the way that I suggested. Which I think that the character gacha should be the only gacha in the game. Um, and I don't think that it should be the type of gacha uh, that would introduce you to characters. I think it should be for character upgrades. And basically, you'll go through the world, you experience what you experience with the single player um, campaign, and you'll be introduced to a bunch of characters. These characters will be given to you for free. Now, of course, there will be some characters that are not essential to the story that they could throw into the gacha and have you earn as like extra characters or something. But the primary way of getting characters would be through the story. That way, everybody gets these sets of characters and have every element, have every different style possibly, if they have like a limit to the styles that they have. And now what you would have is people grinding to make sure that their builds are the best that they could possibly be. You're upgrading your character. You are making sure your abilities are maxed out. That kind of stuff. So the next aspect of it is the weapons. I think there might be a weapon gacha in this game. I think they should scrap that, because we saw a section of the game where you could literally buy weapons. I think what they should do is they should make it so you can craft weapons instead by exploring the world, finding various different items and materials, fight specific bosses or like these key items that will give it a specific element, and then give each one of these items like every single one of the elements that are available. So you might fight this boss and get the fire element version or the sound element version. It's just a matter of which one do you want to use to build this weapon, and then go and craft it, and then just keep on doing this in a cycle to level it up and max it out. Like, I think a crafting system would be so much better than having to just gotcha for your weapons. And then when you lose that opportunity to gotcha for the weapons, it's just gone. And you have to wait until the banner comes back.
Right.
Like, I don't like that system. And on top of that, I also think that they should try monetizing outfits. Give every one of these characters some killer ass outfits so that people can spend money on those outfits, and that would even out the fair gacha system that they would implement.
Right.
Like, just give us a bunch of material, currency in the world that we could grind for, and that would be our gacha materials, I guess. Like, there's so many ways that they could tackle this, make it fair so that players still feel like they're getting something rewarded for their hard work, but also still implement systems that would require grind and hard work in order to accomplish specific tasks. I feel like they could do it. Kuro making a really fun action system.
Right.
I think people would gravitate towards that alone, and then seeing the characters and being then someone literally saying, "Oh, you can get every single one of these characters for free." I mean, they have some bonus characters in there every now and then, but you literally save enough materials that you can get those for free too. That would make so many people happy. And I know the goal of a gacha game is for the company to make money. Okay, so make some bomb ass outfits. Make some bomb ass outfits.
Right.
It's a solution. It really is. Azure Lane's a good example of that. That's how they make their money. And the only reason why Azure Lane, no offense to the developers, the only reason Azure Lane doesn't get as much money is that kind of game does not appeal to the mass audience. So you get a game that does, and you take that same monetization structure. Now people don't feel like they need the outfits. If they want the outfit, they can get it.
Right. No, I agree with
I
you.
feel like it's a win-win. I feel like it's a win-win.
I agree with you, and I think that a lot of developers and companies don't look at the bigger picture and explore all options when it comes to ways that they can monetize the game. And I think a lot of times they focus solely on the characters and weapons or other things in terms of what they can have players spend their premium currency on, when there's other things like skins and stuff like that. But I did want to ask Vulcan, because I know Vulcan has an extensive history with gacha games. So this most likely be with this most likely being a gacha game, and we all know that the negative stigma that ties behind that. Vulcan, what would you like to see from this, having your extensive history with it and your knowledge about it?
Yeah, so I don't think I've gone as deep in thought as Chaotic has. He's spent a lot of time on this. I'm a funny person in gacha games from my personal playing perspective. I got absolutely burnt when I started playing gacha in Summoner's War. I spent like more thousands of dollars than I'd like to say, and I didn't even get a Nat 5, which is like, your top rarity.
Right.
And since then I've just stopped caring about gacha rates and stuff like that, and I enjoy playing games with like the worst characters, the free-to-play characters, because I feel like it's more of a challenge. So me personally, like from my gaming standpoint, it doesn't really bother me what they do, because I can find enjoyment in the shittest characters in the games. But the one thing that I'll say is I like where Chaotic's going, and I think that's like a great thing. It's just like, I still think, like, when I've played games that don't have character gacha, like, summoning just feels boring. Like, if you're summoning for the upgrades, or you're summoning for just weapons, like if you look at Tower Fantasy, because Tower Fantasy originally didn't have like the characters that you could play as when you summoned the weapons.
Yeah, it was just the weapons.
it was just the weapons, and it was just like, well, that's boring as hell. And then they went, okay, now when you summon this weapon, you get that character to play as well. And then it's like all of a sudden that is now exciting. So I don't know if most people feel that way, but I always find getting a character is exciting. But I definitely think so. Like I looked like PGR was like a cool example of if you played from the start and you saved all your currencies, you could pretty much get every character. But if you came in late, you're going to miss out. Now, it sounds like Chaotic wants to go something further where you get like most things from story, which is definitely cool. It's, yeah, I don't know. Like the whole, I've never been a person who buys skins really either. So, you know, I'm sort of the oddball in that situation, but you know, anything,
No,
basically,
there were some people in the conversations that I've had that are like you. That's why I said there could be the extra characters on the side too. The ones that don't really have like a major aspect of the story that include them, right? There would be like these characters that you may have seen with a giant staff or something, or some with an AR or something. I don't know. And they're just side characters that you can gacha for, and they could be given like a banner that's either permanent or just like something that pops up every now and then when you are introduced to the character. I don't know, but
yeah. I know what you're saying. So for me, it's also like if a lot of enjoyment in the game comes from the unique play styles, and you can't experience a play style unless you get like a 0.5% drop chance, that feels bad.
That's why I said you can get them for free.
Yeah, no. So that like that's a very impactful thing because they're all going to be so unique. So you really want to be able to play what you have fun with. However, from other games I know, I find that because a lot of gacha games these days is more like, you know, you've got like 3, 4, 5% drop chance of the highest rarity. You get a heap of summons, and it all comes down to getting a heap of dupes to max them out. But you can get them all. I personally, after playing a bunch of those games and then going back to games where it's like you got really low drop chances, but when you get something cool, it feels special. Like that's something. But yeah, I don't know what the right answer is. I have no idea. But yeah, whatever's going to make people enjoy the game and make the game successful is what I want to go for. But you know, Chaotic's going to have to do some more control tests and surveys and stuff like that.
I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to hear in my comment section after someone just heard you say that. You guys sound like a bunch of gacha addicts. I'm going to be like, no. Vulcan sounds like a gacha addict.
Vulcan's the gacha addict. No, but I'm actually...
The funny thing is I don't spend money in games that much. I just like enjoy the free to play side of things. But yeah, I like where Chaotic's going, and if they can do that, especially like I said, if it's unique gameplay that you don't get to feel a sense of that play style unless you get really lucky, then it feels like a really watered down gaming experience. So that's where these action RPGs are a bit different, because it is more about the gameplay and the experience, in which case it's more relevant to get players characters than in something like a turn-based gacha.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm glad I have you both on here, because we get to see both perspectives, right? We get to see Chaotix, and then we get to see yours, Vulcan, which is seeming to be on the opposite spectrum. But I think it is going to be
this
tricky.
All the time.
It's fantastic. I love it. But I think it is going to be tricky, and I think they are going to have to maybe figure out a way to blend the two, right? Because Vulcan has a point. There's something unique, and maybe this is coming from being like an OG gacha player, where there was something very special and unique about getting that rare character, and knowing that you're one of the very few that has that rare character. But at the same time, it being that, you know, a RPG style where you want to experience those characters and the gameplay, and you don't want to feel like you're missing out, having maybe a gacha system similar to PGR, maybe they just port something over very similar to where it's fairly easy to get those characters and you don't have to necessarily break the bank, and if you're prioritizing properly, it's pretty free to play friendly.
Yeah. See, I definitely agree with you there. Like, PGR felt good because it still felt good when you got that character.
Right.
PGR was a different sort of RNG. It was more you save all your currencies, don't waste them. I'm still the guy that I prefer gameplay over saving for summons. So I still always do my refreshes, premium for spend premium currency to keep playing the game. Like, that's what I like to prioritize over summoning. But PGR was one of those ones where it's like the excitement came in when you came to your summons to hit that thing before the pity so that you've got more of a buffer for the next one. That's where like I had excitement in PGR, like with the first couple banners. It's like, can I reach this before the pity?
Right.
And so everyone can get it, but then your luck can make it an easier experience for the future and maybe let you go for some more, luxury things. The one thing with that system is it really caters to people who get in at the start. And, if you come in a year later, you're going to have a harder time, getting through that backlog when you're also saving for the new characters as well.
Right.
Better spend your money.
Yeah, that's when you might have to swipe. And one last thing that I will say as well, because we all know Kuro Games is a business, they're gonna want to make as much money as possible. So character gachas is most likely going to be the way to go, and I think they can further monetize with the skins. Coming from Punishing Gray Raven, we know the community and the fan base there loves their skins. Most people do. So they can monetize with the skins, and we know how Kuro Games does skins. They do it in a very well detailed way, so that's another way they can monetize. But one thing that I will state is with the weapon, I personally, this might just be me, but I don't want a weapon banner. I come from Genshin Impact, and there's nothing more burdensome or tedious to have to pull for a character and go deep, maybe pity to the character, knowing you then have to now still get the weapon if you want, it doesn't necessarily mean the character was then maxed out, but you want that character because it's aesthetically pleasing, it's catered to them, it's their signature. I personally don't want that. What I would rather have, and you guys let me know what you think, is for a weapon to have a small drop percentage in some type of raid, as well as like the gear. I'm gonna in quotations say artifacts, because I don't know what the word is for the gear. Memories, is that what they're called?
Okay, if they take it from PGR, yeah.
So have like that, that raid that we went on a rant about earlier, have that's where you have to get said 5-star or 6-star weapon is in that raid, and have it have a small drop chance, so that way the replayability for said raid is there as well. And it'll be a hype moment when you actually it'll be a hype moment when you actually do get said weapon. Can you imagine, like, you do the raid, you've done it like, I don't know, 25 times, and now that 25th time it dropped, that's a little excessive, but I'm just saying, and it dropped the weapon, you're like, shit, I got the 6-star weapon finally.
I completely agree. Yeah, I despise weapon gacha. Like we spoke about, Terra Fantasy's done it in a way that makes it a bit more exciting because you get the character and the weapon is the character type thing. But like, I feel like if you're summoning for characters, earn the gear and the weapons in the game from playing it. Don't just monetize that as well. That triggers me beyond belief.
I agree. So I did want to go ahead and ask Vulcan this one. Now, as of now, Kuro seems to be adopting the element feature, and Chaotic, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in Wuthering Waves?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Vulcan, do you think this is a good idea, or would you prefer they went in a different direction? And if so, what would you have preferred to see instead?
I think Vulcan needs to educate himself on the way the element system works before he can answer that question.
Yeah, I was about to say I'd like Chaotic to answer that.
Oh, my apologies, Vulcan. I thought you knew. Okay.
So nah, because I haven't played myself. So like I've watched a fair bit, but yeah, like Chaotic, can you enlighten us a bit on how that actually works?
Okay, so even I'm a little spotty on this, but I have an understanding, like on the most basic level. It's not like you just take two abilities and mix them together. You actually have to fight with your basic attacks first and build them up before you can do like a mix of elements. So let's say you're using I forget how to say her name, the girl with the guns, the fire girl with the guns, and you're also using Chi, okay, and then you're also using Yan Yan, right? and you're basically gonna have to fill up these little 3 bubbles that are at the bottom left of your health bar. And when you mix those 2 elements together, that's when like a QTE gauge was kind of appear and the elements will mix of the 2 characters. That's my basic understanding of how it works. Until we get the English version of it, I don't really have a better way of explaining it. But there is a content creator that does have like an extended video on the elemental reactions that I'll kind of like send you guys so you can see it. But yeah, I think before we can answer any true questions about the elemental reactions or whatever we want to call it for this, we're gonna have to get a global version of the CBT or whatever so that we can truly experiment with it. Because even that video didn't seem like it had all the information. It had an understanding, but it didn't have all the information.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't like at this stage. It's like if they implement it well, I got no issues. If they implement it bad, then maybe something else. But yeah, it's way too early for me to sort of get into that.
Yeah,
And I didn't mean to interrupt. It's just I knew you
No,
weren't
no,
gonna be able to
I
answer
was
that.
literally
No,
about to pass
that's
that to you.
perfect.
That was going straight to you.
That's I probably should ask Vulcan first because it's something that has been kind of like shown a little bit, but not really explored all that well, or really not too many people gone in depth about it. And even myself, and I think that's why I drew that question up, because I was confused on it also, and I didn't even know how the elements reacted and how you would have them, like, it, for example, if it was similar to like Genshin where you just pop skills and the elements start combining, or
Nah.
like you said, you have to fill up a gauge.
It's like
That's-
3 little bubbles that
so
you see, and
interesting.
it is a bar that goes up. If you look at the bubbles, they
Right.
just fill up like some water. But it's at the same time, it's a very different system, and I think the purpose of it, and I think the content creator that I'm gonna send you, I think the reason why they did it this way is probably because they don't want it to be abused. They still want to keep the skill gap there, and I think the biggest issue with Genshin is you pop two abilities and then everything's dead.
Right. That's true.
So yeah,
And I think that's going to take even more skill to be able, because once you start adding everything together, you think about your parries, your dodges, your unique gauge that you have to monitor, and then that element gauge as well. You tack that on top of it, having to keep an eye on that while you have this extremely difficult boss that's flying around. I could see it really ramping up in difficulty, having to micromanage all those things. And then you have your QTEs, and then if you switch into a different character, they have their own unique gauge and how they play. It can get pretty interesting, in my opinion.
Vulcan's gonna be so pissed when he plays this game.
Is he?
What was that?
Is Vulcan a rager?
He's not a rager, but he'll sit there and like, nah, that's raging. Yeah, he is an undercover rager. He is an undercover rager, and you can't say you aren't, bro, because I've heard you do it.
No. I can get
He's
triggered
still in
very,
denial.
very well. Don't worry. But what's your reasoning behind why I will? Because I'll suck.
I suck, bro. It's not. It's literally not calling you
I can see
out.
a lot of people getting frustrated because, like I said, I just think there's gonna be so much micromanaging. And once again, I'm gonna make this comparison, but like Genshin, you can autopilot that and not have to worry about too many things. Like you're popping skills, you're switching in, you're switching out. Like it's very easy. There's nothing to really manage except your cooldown. But now we have Wuthering Waves that has cooldowns, has a skill, has an ultimate. The skill and the ultimate a lot of times tie into your unique gauge. Some of the unique gauges you have to like time the press and the hold. Then you have another gauge for your freaking elements, apparently, maybe, that you have to manage. And then you have to wait for both of them to get filled up if you want to do a right element. And then you got your QTEs for your characters. I don't, now that I'm thinking about it. There's more to it
than that too. There's more to it than that too, because then you also have your mimicry, the monsters that you capture. Then you also have
Oh, true.
bro,
you got your
my
companion.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we dive into those things a little bit more, because I feel like that is another option for massive replayability. I don't know if everyone would be into it, but for me anyway.
No, it's a
With
great
those
segue.
things, like
Yeah.
like I just look at those things and I'm like, this like, so when I play Pokemon, I love shiny hunting. That's me. I like trying to get shiny versions of the Pokemon, the recolorations. But I feel like with those things, like it looks like you do the boss fights in the world, and that's how you get them. Is that correct, Chaotic?
You can get any monster. As far as I know, you just can't capture humans. Every monster in the world can be captured.
Yeah. So
and it's just by killing them.
Cool.
So cool.
And it's just by killing them, and then you press F and it captures, or was it V? It's one of the two buttons.
Yeah.
And it captures the monster, and then you can equip it to equip one to each character. So that's what I meant by the Mimicry is also something that you need to include in your combos, because with each character having a different Mimicry, you also can include that in your combos.
Yep. And if you capture two of the same Mimicry, are they exactly the same in stats and everything like that?
See, that's the part that I think is cool. That's how you level them up.
Oh, there's a reason to.
Yeah, so that's what I love.
The same monster.
So
and what I would find
on this
sick
yesterday, actually, I didn't know what capturing them multiple times was doing, but I was watching back on some of my footage, and I was like, "Oh snap! It leveled up there." Like it's a really cool system.
Really cool, man.
So what I would find insane as well is if there was like a chance when you're capturing it, like a 0.005% chance that you get like a different outfit on it or a different skin.
I knew he was gonna go there.
Yeah. So like, because I said I love shiny hunting in Pokemon. So imagine if like that was like a little chance, and it doesn't give you any competitive benefit or anything like that. It's just a flex
shiny.
that you got that. You know, you got the shiny.
Yeah.
Like I would grind the open world all day capturing things, like my favorite ones, if that was a thing.
And it was a very small percent chance. And you know that one boss you were talking about, Chaotic, that has the red wings and the spear. Like the shiny would be like gold wings or something like that. And it'd be like a 0.01% chance that happens.
That literally would be a flex. That would literally would be a flex.
That would be one of the most massive flexes. Like you're in co-op, and then that guy, he does his little Mimicry, and it's the shiny. You just looking at him like, are you serious? This guy's luck right now, or he's got one of those. I think that people would stay on the game for that, and that's what developers want. They want you to stay playing the game.
And on top of that, you cannot monetize that site. Like if you put that in the game as a thing, do not monetize it, because that would destroy it.
It would ruin.
It would take away from the value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like don't make something that you can buy that gives you a higher percent chance to get that.
And this is to an extent the same for me with skins. It's like, if a skin is like something that you can earn in a game, I'm all about it. As soon as it's something you can buy, I just have no interest.
All right, so this is just going to be an open one, so anybody can jump on this one. So I think we can all see that this game, Wuthering Waves, is special. It's going to have tons of potential, right? Now, tell me what you want the most from this game, and what advice would you give Kuro Games to make sure that this game is truly successful on launch?
To me, it's a combination of things we've spoken about. Global launch at the same time, please. Like everywhere, don't ruin that experience. And it's just the combination of everything we spoke about. The global launch, good co-op in the game. Obviously the combat's looking really, really good. So like I don't think that's going to be an issue. And then, some meaningful open world. Honestly, the biggest thing from our whole conversation that I want to be in the game now is shiny versions of I forgot what they're called, Pokemon in the game. That is like the big, like, I don't think you understand how much replayability there is in that type of system for me personally as a player. But that's like, honestly, from that whole conversation, that's the biggest thing I would like them to implement if they aren't already doing it.
Now, would you be okay if that's just like if it's not official launch, like on launch day, but they do it in like a future patch?
Yeah, like obviously development's a thing, so.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, I just think that system of catching the monsters in the world, if you want to call them, is such a cool implementation. Like that's a really cool feature to put into one of these type of games.
Yeah, very unique.
You already know my answer. I literally want them to make sure that the gacha set up properly so that players can feel like they can just grind for their materials and don't have to spend so much money. Um, Fully craftable weapon system and the outfits being the primary way of monetization, with also still having that secondary method of monetization being the character stuff, right? So I just don't want them to make this a greedy venture, and they want to make sure that this game is something that can last for years to come, because if they do that, then they're going to make their money. It's just not going to be right when the game drops, or they might make their money back right when the game drops, like some Genshin shit, and be literally set moving forward. But they have to make sure that this is a game that lasts super long. Replayability all day, every day. I want to be able to. I want to feel like I'm doing my account disjustice by not logging on and grinding.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing, like while we're talking about replayability, I always get stuck on tangents. But a system from World of Warcraft once again was like transmogs, where you could get a weapon from one dungeon and just change your weapon to look like it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it was the other one, like obviously it had to be the same style, whether it was a sword, guns, a system like that, which gave maybe old dungeons a reason to be played to get, the gear that maybe people don't want, but they want the appearance for. That would be cool stuff.
Yeah.
There could also be weapon skins too.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it,
that would be unique, or like what Vulcan said. But I agree with you guys. I agree with what both of you guys had to say. I want a fair and nice gacha system. I want free-to-plays to feel like, they're on par. A simultaneous release. I want co-op that matters. I want a game that I can grind for hours and it's fun with the replayability. I want those raid features. I want no weapon gacha, but be able to do a raid or to be able to do a difficult event that has a small chance of dropping that weapon. Shinies with the creatures, because that's such a unique thing to have. No other game in that genre of open world that I can think of has those companions or those creatures that you literally defeat the boss and you can capture the boss, and then the boss is now on your team that you can utilize. They have so much there that they can expand upon that can make it so much uniqueness to it and so much better, and they have just a lot going for itself just in that feature alone. So for them to really, I guess, dig in on that and to be able to further develop that part of it, I think would be a good move. But yeah, I think all of those things, and marketing, that was one last thing that I wanted to mention, is that I just want Kuro Games to absolutely market the hell out of this game, whether that be with character trailers, PVs, whatever the case may be. I would love for them to allocate their resources and money into marketing this game, so that way it gets the attention that it deserves, and that it can really blow up. So that's just my thing. Anything else you guys want to add before we get on out of here?
Nah, I'm pretty good.
I think we're all set. I was trying to think and make sure I didn't have anything.
All right.
Yeah, we're good.
All right, perfect. So before we get out of here, once again, massive shout out to Steparu for the gameplay that you guys saw. Massive shout out for Vulcan. It was an honor to have you on here, as well as you, Chaotic. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Now, this is just part 1, if you can believe it. We actually have a part 2 coming out after this one. So make sure you guys are subbed. Make sure you have the notifications turned on and be ready for that part 2. Part 2 is going to be a good one. You guys are going to want to see that one because we go real into detail about an aspect of games in general that you're probably going to want to see. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. It was an honor to have you, and we'll see you all guys in the next one. Peace out. That was not
good,
my
man.
outro by any means, but
That was a good outro. That was a good outro.
Yeah, that was
I
a
like
good
it.
one.
it wasn't my normal
You
outro,
see-
I should say.
I'm
It
gonna
wasn't my
steal
normal one.
it.
You kind of sound like you're experienced in
That
this.
I
sound.
kinda-
You've
that I
been doing
kinda
this for
know
a
what I'm
long
I was like,
doing a little
holy
bit.
fuck, this dude's professional.
time.